Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Sea Turtle Science series. I'm Dr. Vanessa Bezy, and today we're going to talk about sea turtle research, what it's like to be a sea turtle scientist, and how you can do your own research and also do something to help the turtles too. So welcome. We're going to give a little time for everyone to join in before we get started. And as we get started, I have a question for you. What do you think is the most important quality for a sea turtle scientist to have? So I'm going to put that up and see what kind of answers we have. And while we do that, I wanted to share with you that this morning I had a lot of fun going around the house and looking for all of the gear that is really important for my work and also some of my favorite gear. So as I share with you today what it's like to be a sea turtle scientist, I'm also going to be doing a little bit of show and tell of all of the different uniforms and gear that we have to bring with us out in the field. Let me see if we have any questions coming out. And make sure that we're connected well. We're using a new program today, so I hope this is working well. Do you see anyone connected?
No. Yeah.
And is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully this is working on your end. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and slowly get started and still give people a chance to join in. So if you haven't already, we have a story map that matches this lesson, and the story map kind of goes through what it's like to be a scientist, what that means, and how you can do your own research. So we have a few questions for you to do some research, pick a species of sea turtles, learn more about them, and learn how you can help. And we're going to follow up with that with our lessons next week, so be sure to check that out. So I asked the question, what do you think are the most important qualities for a sea turtle scientist? Because it might be different than you would think. And this is, I think, also something that applies to all scientists in general. But me personally, I think that the most important qualities are first and foremost curiosity. A scientist really has to be someone who asks a lot of questions and is looking for answers. That's a huge part of what we do as scientists. The second is problem solving. There are always all kinds of unexpected things, especially when you're working outdoors and with wildlife. There's a lot of different approaches that you have to take in your science, and so it's very important to be a good problem solver, to be able to MacGyver things, be creative and inventive, and that's something that is going to be a really important quality to help you be a successful scientist or sea turtle scientist specifically. And the last one that I picked is persistence. Working with animals, working with conservation can sometimes be really difficult. It's hard to work with a species that you know could go extinct, and it's very sad. And sometimes we feel like we're constantly fighting. So it's really important to be persistent, to never give up, to keep your chin up and work hard. Not all experiments work well. We often fail many times as scientists before we succeed with an experiment. So being persistent is my third choice for what you need to be a successful sea turtle scientist. I'm going to double check that we have, if we have any answers to the questions that I asked. I see patience and care. I like that one. I think that's very important. Patience is super important with turtles because sometimes a turtle might take an entire hour to start laying her nest, and you have to sit there and be patient and wait for her to start laying the eggs before you can collect data. Sometimes we have trouble also making our experiments work, so patience is another important part of that. Care is super important too. When you're working with animals, you have to be very careful not to harm the animal and to take really good care of it. So I like that one as well. That's a good answer, Jeremy. So moving forward, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing with you a little bit about the type of work that sea turtle scientists do. And to illustrate that, I reached out to all of my friends on Facebook and asked my sea turtle scientist friends to send me photos that show what a day in the life of a sea turtle scientist is. And my favorite thing about this is that you can see that there's a really big diversity of the types of work that we do. The people that are doing it are from all over the world. all different age groups and backgrounds even. So sea turtle scientists are a very, very diverse group of people, and we do a lot of diverse things. So just to illustrate that, I'm going to share with you some of the pictures here. Most of these were sent to me, but I also found some of my favorite ones from some close friends to share with you. And as you can see, there are a lot of different aspects of this type of work, but a lot of sea turtle science work involves a lot of manual labor outdoors in hot and humid environments. We are usually sandy, salty, covered in all kinds of dirt and other things. So it takes a certain type of person to want to get out and get dirty in the fields. There are often a lot of insects. Most sea turtles are in tropical or subtropical climates. So in the season when they're nesting, there can be a lot of bugs on the beach. So if you're prone to mosquito bites, it's important to protect yourself. Some scientists spend actually a lot of work in a lab analyzing samples. And so some sea turtle scientists spend a season outside working with turtles maybe 3 months out of the year, but the rest of the year they're analyzing all of that information, either doing statistics or computer work or different types of analyses, maybe molecular or lab work. And so overall, the life of a scientist can vary a lot. Hoping that these pictures help you understand a bit more. You'll notice that there are a few pictures in here that are dark or that look like they were taken with a red light. And that is the first aspect of sea turtle work that I wanted to introduce, because this is what most people get started out when you're working with turtles. One of the first things that you might get involved with is monitoring of nesting. And this is super important for sea turtles, for us to be aware of how many are nesting and how the population is doing over the long term. So this more or less basic work is actually one of the most important parts of the work that we do as sea turtle scientists. So the first term I'm going to introduce is night patrol. Anyone who's worked with turtles has probably been on one of these. These are sometimes about 4-hour shifts where groups of scientists and volunteers and interns will go out onto the beach to walk up and down the beach at night looking for nesting turtles. And I thought that it would be interesting for you to see what our outfit might be like. So today I'm wearing a traditional black tank top. I would normally also always bring my red headlamp. The red light is super important because sea turtles are very sensitive to light. Imagine you're in a dark room and someone flips on the light switch. You feel blinded. That's kind of what happens to turtles at night. So we use red lights so that we minimize our impact on the turtles, and most of the time we're not using light at all. So you have to get used to walking around in the dark and feeling comfortable letting your eyes adjust, which is a trait that's really important for people working on night patrol. The next thing I always bring is an extra black long sleeve shirt that I can wear. It gets chilly at night, and this can also protect you from bugs and insects. The next thing I always pack on any research trip, so not just on night patrols, is a waterproof notebook and a pencil to write notes about everything that we see. Any data that we collect would go in this notebook. And waterproof is important. If it rains and all of your paper falls apart, then you lose your data. So you have to be careful with that. Then the next important thing that we usually take on night patrol are sea turtle flipper tags. They look kind of like this, and these are similar to the tags that you might see a cow have a tag in its ear. They're tiny little metal tags. You have a piece of pliers that we use to tag the turtle. So it goes in here like this, and this goes usually on the flipper of the turtle. It's a little pinch like an earring that has a number code on it, and it also has usually the location on the other side. That way, we know that we have measured this turtle before. If we see her again, we can learn how often she's nesting and where she's nesting if she gets found somewhere else. So these are kind of the least expensive way that turtle scientists tag turtles so that we can find them again and learn more about them. There are lots of other types of tags that are fancier and more expensive. In most of Latin America and actually in most beaches in the world, we use these because they're just easier. The next really important thing that I almost always have with me is measuring tape. We almost always are measuring the turtles, the length of their carapace or shell and the width to help us learn more about how they grow. So again, if we see a turtle more than once, we can see how it grew from one year to the next or several nesting seasons apart. That is pretty much what night patrol is about. My favorite thing about patrol is that we're usually with a group of people that are from all over the world with different experiences, and it's pretty much a long walk on the beach at night to observe these incredible animals and share with other people. So it was my favorite part when I started working with turtles. Some people don't do morning surveys. So some turtle projects, some people don't do night patrols. Some turtle projects will do what's called a morning survey. And that means that there's no one on the beach at night, but they go early in the morning, either walking or sometimes in a little vehicle. I'll show you a picture here, kind of down towards the bottom in the middle. You can see some projects are even using ATVs or biking to go up and down the beach and looking for turtle tracks. So even if we don't get to see the turtle, we know that the turtle came to nest. So that's another type of survey that we usually do to look for turtle nests. The next phase of sea turtle work, in some locations in the world, we have what's called a hatchery. And I'm going to point out a few pictures here. Most of the pictures where you see sand are at a hatchery. And on this other one here, you can see lots of sand. So in some projects, the nests are either left in place and protected with stakes, as you can see in one of these pictures. Most of the beaches in the US, they just have stakes to mark off the nest and protect it. In other countries, these nests might get taken illegally, or they might get eaten by some type of predator, even a stray dog or other raccoons, other animals. So turtle projects around the world often relocate nests, so they will move the nest from where the turtle laid it into a protected, enclosed area. And this is a lot of work. I'll go back to the other picture as well so you can see one of these on the top, top a little bit to the down next to where the drone is someone building a hatchery. Building a hatchery is a lot of work. We have to clean the sand and sift it and turn it over and make sure that everything is prepared and well spaced out to place all of the nests in there. Once we have a hatchery, we have to monitor it all the time. It's super important to make sure those nests and those eggs survive. And after about a month and a half, depending on where you are in the world and the temperature, the hatchlings hatch and we have to release them. So we do often have the privilege, if you work with the hatchery, to see lots of baby turtles and release them back into the ocean. The less pleasant side of hatchery work and a lot of turtle work are nest excavations. These are probably what most of us least like to do as a sea turtle scientist. I'm going to put the pictures back up so you can see anywhere where you see eggs is likely there was a nest excavation. And so what we do is once a turtle nest has hatched, we have to go in there, dig in the sand, and look at each egg to see whether it hatched, whether maybe there was any development in the egg. We often are taking measurements like temperature and oxygen from nests as well, so we are digging in the sand a lot. The reason why we don't like nest excavations is that it usually smells like rotten eggs. It doesn't smell very good, and sometimes there's worms and flies and other things in there. So my personal gear that I want to share with for the hatcheries are my favorite gloves. These we often wear gloves, obviously to protect ourselves, but also the turtles. And these are washable, but they have a nice surface that helps me be able to handle eggs and still protect myself. So these are some of the most important gear I have to not have to get a bunch of sand up my nails, which can be really painful actually. So that is what nest excavation is all about. My tip for nest excavations when I first started was to put a little bit of toothpaste under my nose so that I couldn't smell anything. I handle smell pretty good, but I have had some volunteers that really struggle with it, and toothpaste is a really good trick. I also had a colleague mentioned that using herbal essences to wash any of your gear is the best to get rid of the turtley smell. So I like that piece of advice as well. Just going to check in and see if there's any questions. All right. So the next phase of sea turtle work is boat work. Not all turtle biologists work out at sea, but since sea turtles spend most of their life out at sea, you'll notice that a lot of these pictures are on a boat. And in most cases, we have to capture the turtle to collect information from it, data, or even samples. And in other cases, they are caught in fishing gear, and there's a biologist on board to take advantage of the situation, measure the turtle, and then release it to save it from the fishing gear. So there's all kinds of different reasons why you might be out in the water, and these are just some examples. And I wanted to share some of my gear. The first most important is a snorkel. You don't have to have anything fancy, but it's really helpful to have a good snorkel, a mask that fits well. This is a little old. I should probably replace it soon. Some fins to make sure you can swim well. We usually work in open ocean currents, so even if you're a strong swimmer, fins are really helpful. And sea turtles are much better at swimming than we are, so fins are super important for that. And I have a dry bag here. I like having a clear bag so I can put my personal things in there, keep them safe while we're on the boat. And my favorite outfit for a boat day at work, first of all, is my favorite hat. It's kind of big and ridiculous, but I love this hat because it keeps the sun off my face and my shoulders, and I usually don't like wearing sunglasses. They just kind of get in the way when I'm working, so the hat is one of my favorite personal items to bring on the boat. I also have a sports bra top, bathing suit top that's perfect for work, and my favorite are these swim leggings that have a crazy pattern on them. I love these because they are still light and breathable, they dry quickly, and in the meantime, they protect my legs from the sun and from the bugs. So I even wear these sometimes at night on the beach, even when I'm not swimming. I think those are the most important items for going out on the boat. And I just realized I forgot to share with you a few other items from night patrol, so I'll pull those out right now so you can see. The other item that's really important for me, maybe not for other people on turtle beaches, are my water shoes and sandals that have closed-toed shoes. Where I work, there are so many turtles that you often get your feet trampled by turtles. So these are super important for me to wear when I'm on the beach during an arribada. And the other important item that I have is my raincoat. This is so important. In the rainy season in Costa Rica, we are getting completely drenched, so it's nice to stay at least a little dry while we're out in the field. So the next type of sea turtle work that I wanted to share with you is work that we call husbandry. And husbandry basically is kind of like aquarium work. Working with an animal that's in a tank requires a lot of maintenance. You have to clean the tanks, feed the animals, make sure they stay healthy. There are a lot of different places that have sea turtles in captivity for different reasons, and most of them for rehabilitation and release. And so this is a very different type of work. It's much more routine than other types of work. So these facilities have to wake up early every day, feed the turtles every day, clean their tanks every day. So it's a lot of manual labor. It's usually pretty smelly and dirty, and you're going to be cleaning tanks and taking care of animals. But the best part, my favorite part of that has always been that you really get to be kind of almost form a closer relationship with the turtles, that you learn a little bit their personalities, and it's really cool to have that experience to see a sea turtle up close. All of these places rely on veterinarians to take care of the turtles and make sure they stay healthy. So there's also an entire group of sea turtle scientists that specifically are basically turtle doctors, and that's what they do, and they're very, very important to making sure that these animals stay healthy and get to be released back into the wild. Then the last thing that I wanted to bring up is possibly some things that you hadn't thought a sea turtle scientist did. So on these pictures, you'll also see, in addition to a lot of tanks and turtles, you'll also notice that there's a scientist giving a presentation. There are some people dressed up like turtles, and some people even speaking with fishermen. So a really important part of sea turtle science is also education and outreach, sharing your data if you're a scientist, and working with policy to try to get laws and regulations to protect these animals and the ocean. So you'll see that this is something that's a really big part of sea turtle science. And so we also have sea turtle scientists that focus a lot more on the laws and the policy and that kind of education and outreach component. And here you can see that there's all kinds of different approaches to that. There are some people that do workshops, webinars, classes with children, but there are also people, like I said, that might work directly with fishermen on the boats, talking to them about the fishing gear to learn how we can really both help fishermen and help the turtles. So that's about everything that I can think of that you would think of as sea turtle research or sea turtle science. I'd love to hear your questions, and I'm curious to know about, of all the things that a sea turtle scientist does, what do you think your favorite thing would be to do? And in the meantime, I'm going to double check to make sure I'm not missing any questions. I have a different software today, so give me a second. Okay. Let's see. Just check in to see if there's any questions. Hopefully everything is working appropriately and people were able to join in. What's the most challenging thing you have to deal with as a scientist? Oh, that's a great question. Oh, wow. I don't know. That's a really good one. Let me think a tiny bit. I think it's the persistence. I think the hardest thing is, science is a lot of trial and error. And so over time you learn to deal with it, but it can be really frustrating sometimes to really be working on an experiment and just have things not working. What I mean by that is, in order to study, for example, turtles out at sea, I have to figure out what kind of boat can I get, when can we get out there, how do we find the sea turtles, and sometimes you just don't find turtles or something goes wrong, and that's really challenging. So that's where why I picked persistence. I think that's really where I have felt is the hardest, but also I think the lack of sleep, I didn't mention, but the night patrols being 4-hour shifts can be really difficult. I had a difficult time for a while. I'm a grumpy person when I don't sleep well, so I had to really learn to readjust my sleep schedule to the night patrol when I was doing night patrols. Luckily, I don't do those as often anymore. And I see, yes, that makes sense. Thank you. Great, I'm happy that makes sense. Let me see if anyone else has answered questions. I'm happy to answer more questions if you have questions about anything in particular, if you want to see any of the different props that I brought today. It's taking a little while to load, so I hope the stream is working well. Oh, I forgot one more item. This is my personal kind of luxury. It's not at all something that's required for me to have, but I'm really happy to have it, and it's my travel hammock. This is awesome to have as a sea turtle scientist because we often have to spend the night outside on the beach at the hatchery for all kinds of different reasons. And so I always bring this along, so if I get stranded somewhere on the beach, I can hang the hammock and at least have a comfortable place to sit while I wait. I think I saw another one pop up. See the boat. Ocean time, swimming with the turtles. I completely agree. I think that my favorite part of being a sea turtle scientist is being able to be out in the water. I miss it a lot right now. Yeah, it looks like the stream paused a little bit. The window with the question isn't working. Of all the things a sea turtle scientist does, what would be your favorite thing? And she says, swim with the turtles. I agree. Swimming with the turtles is the best part. Unfortunately, it's probably, I don't get to do it as much as I would like. But having the privilege to swim with turtles and really see them in the ocean it's always my favorite research day, and it's my favorite part too. I didn't hear what you said. Can you write it? Oh, yeah. So let me clarify. You have to have a research permit to do everything that I talked about today. In order to be able to touch, handle, or do any type of work with sea turtles, you have to get research permits from the right authorities. So all of the work that I do and different sea turtle projects do requires a lot of approval to make sure that we don't negatively impact the turtles and really reduce our impact on them, and to make sure everything's done safely and well. So I get to swim with turtles, but only because I have a research permit. Here in Oosternal, there are a lot of turtles in the water, so you might have seen some out there, but just so you know, you can't do all of that without a research permit. We have one more question. Have you run into poachers before? Is it dangerous? That's a really great question. I have never felt endangered at all, but I'm really lucky. I work on a beach where there are security guards almost every night of the year. Oosternal is very different from a lot of other places, so I feel really safe there because I know the park rangers, I recognize the security guards, and I know there's a lot of eyes on the beach. But there are a lot of places where it's not safe to work. Really remote beaches, even some here in Costa Rica, have had a lot of issues. So it can be dangerous, and it's definitely something to consider when you're getting into sea turtle science, whether you want to expose yourself to that. And we have to be very careful. And so I'm really lucky that the beach we work at, I feel really safe. I've never had a negative interaction, but I have in the past on other beaches in Costa Rica run into poachers and had to call the police and leave the beach. So that is a huge challenge of the work that we do. And unfortunately, it's still a reality in a lot of places in the world. In the US, I think that's not really an issue at all. Happy to answer any more questions. Otherwise, we might start wrapping up. I'm going to pop up the sea turtle scientist pictures again so you can see those as we go. I wanted to point out a few things. These are from people from all over the world. You can see there's tank cleaning, there's boat work, there's medical work, there's attaching tags to turtles, satellite tags, protecting nests on the beach, beach walks in the morning, finding turtles, nest excavations, night work with the red lamp. These are all really common sights for a sea turtle biologist. So hopefully that helps you picture a little bit what it would be like to be a turtle biologist and what things are like for us on a day-to-day basis. Every day is pretty different, and our work isn't very routine unless you work in a sea turtle facility. And I think we're still having a few connection issues, so sorry about that. But I will just double check again and then check off. Feel free to watch this video later and send comments. I'll continue to follow all of the comments and answer as best I can. And you can join us on Saturday at 12 p.m. We will be doing a live show and tell of the Marine Debris Tracker app, which is an app that helps us track trash that might end up in the ocean and affect turtles. So we're going to be sharing that on Saturday if you want to join us. And otherwise, the Sea Turtle Science series will continue next Tuesday with the sea turtle threats. Be sure to check out the story map beforehand if you'd like to take a little bit more time and get more involved with some work. And really looking forward to connecting with you again, and I hope that you enjoyed this demonstration of sea turtle research and what it's like to be a sea turtle scientist.